What's going on, folks? This is Mr. Colion Noir, and this is the H&K USP Tactical 45. This firearm for me is probably the most tactical thing I own, to be honest. But I have to say, it's a really, really neat gun. It's been around for some time now. By no means is it a brand new gun, but even considering that, it's withstood the test of time, and it's still here today and still requiring a pretty penny for it. But for the most part, I'm a big fan of H&K. I wouldn't say they're my favorite brand, but I am very fond of them as a brand, and I do really take pride in their quality and their craftsmanship when it comes to their guns. And I have to really give it to H&K, as they're a very innovative company and they're not really scared to take risks on certain things. Granted, they can be kind of stubborn about certain things, i.e. proprietary rails, but nonetheless, I have to give it up to H&K that they build a fine product. Now, that does not go without saying. H&Ks are pricey, on the borderline of being overpriced, so to speak. And the only reason I say on the verge of being overpriced is because price and what you buy are kind of relative. What somebody would spend on one thing, somebody else wouldn't spend. Now, the USP Tactical lives up to its name to the T. This is a tactical, super tactical looking firearm, as you can see. It does look like your basic USP 45, but with some added features to give that kind of tactical look to it. I am a fan of it, and then I'm not. To a certain degree, for me, it's a bit much. Even though I like the gun and I own it, it's a little much. When you really actually get it in hand and then you start to really live with it, it's super tactical. But it's not so much a bad thing. For some people that may be a good thing, for other people it may be a bad thing. Now, the ergonomics on the USP are just that, the ergonomics on the USP. I've stated in previous videos that with the USP, H&K kind of took a very utilitarian mindset as far as the ergonomic system. There's nothing fancy about it. It's rugged, it's rough, it's coarse, it feels like a block. Even though it's a little slimmer than a Glock, it does feel like a 2x4 in your hand. It's not supposed to make you feel comfortable. It's just a get it done kind of gun, as far as the ergonomic system is concerned. So it's kind of a hate it or love it kind of thing. I personally don't feel either way about it. It doesn't bother me, and nor am I just totally impressed by it. Typically, people who own USP 45s are known to put the hoe grips on there, and at some point I had them on too, and I think they really worked, and I think I might add it to this one too, as I had it before on my regular USP. But without the hoe grip, it's pretty rough, but for some people, they love it. And for those with big hands, they would absolutely love it. For those whose hands kind of lean on the smaller side, yeah, you might not like that too much. But for ergonomically, it just works. Now, another thing about the gun is the functionality. And I kind of add this to the ergonomic system because it goes into how this gun feels in hand. I'm a huge fan of the safety decocker on this firearm. I think it works very well, almost too well. And it's just very intuitive. Everything is right where you need it to be. You got the safety, sweep up, sweep it down, the cock, and then also, if I wanted to drop the slide using the slide lock, it's just right there. And though a lot of people hate it, I have to give the props to the magazine release. After utilizing it for a little bit, you actually start to prefer it. So ergonomically, I have to give it up to H&K. Even though from a grip standpoint, it's a little bit rough and a bit utilitarian, but it works. The features on this gun are abundant. They're all over the place, especially compared to the regular USP. Now, whether or not these added features warrant the price hike, that's left to be told. But starting from the ground up, basically, let's talk about some of the features that are not on the regular USP, that are on the tactical. And the main thing that you first notice whenever you pick up this gun or even lay eyes on this gun is, of course, what it's noted for is the threaded barrel. The threaded barrel allows you to add a suppressor, muzzle brakes, and anything of the sort to the end of this gun to basically make it even more tactical, like it needs to be any more tactical. You have raised sights compared to the lower profile sights that you get on your basic USP tactical. On your basic USP. Now the raised sights serve a purpose. The purpose of the raised sights is so that you can see over the actual suppressor that you add on the end of it, after paying a tax stamp and a whole bunch of other stuff. The raised sights are actually kind of cool in a weird way in that they're completely adjustable for windage and elevation. So you have complete control over what these sights do. And that's not too common with a lot of firearms. So the fact that I can take this firearm and adjust it up or down, however I'm hitting, I can basically place my shots wherever I need them to go. With the USPs, a lot of the components on the gun are really big, they're really meaty, and they're very obvious. For instance, like your slide lock. Your slide lock is massive, especially compared to, say, like a Glock, which is almost non-existent. But what it does do is it allows you to get a very tactile response with respect to engaging it. So whenever I need to drop the slide, usually I do power stroke my gun, but in the event that I do drop it, it's very easy. And you can't really argue with that. And also, like I said, I've gone on at length about the safety decocker and how effective that is. And also, you do have a hammer, a spurred hammer, as this is a double action, single action gun. Now, one of the biggest complaints about this particular firearm, or just USPs in general, not just the tactical, is the proprietary rail system. The proprietary rail system basically limits you to only using HK parts, which sucks because HK parts are usually overpriced. And considering it's what, 2012, I think, and granted this gun came out a long time before 2012, but in owning this gun, it kind of gets a little annoying knowing that you can only run certain lights and lasers that are made by H&K for this gun. But there are companies now that make adapters for it, which are actually quite expensive for what they are, but they do have adapters for it now so that you can add it to this gun and allow you to utilize other types of lights and laser systems that you want. Now, the trigger. The trigger on the USP Tactical is supposed to be a match grade trigger with an adjustable trigger stop, which is supposed to allow you to basically shorten up your reset. I'm going to say this. I've encountered better triggers than this. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's not bad at all, actually. It is good, but I've heard a lot of noise made about the trigger on this thing, and quite honestly, it really just doesn't impress me to the point that I want to rave on and on and on about it. It is smooth. It's a short, nice double action pull, and then in single action, you get a short reset, and then it drops. Now, you do notice the trigger stop back here when you are firing, and the thing about it is it kind of gives it a weird kind of unnatural feel to the trigger brake. Now, it isn't a deal breaker, but it does add as you can see, makes your reset a little bit shorter than it would be without it, because you're not pulling the trigger that far back. Now, there's something else I want to talk about this gun, and that's the size. This thing is massive. Like, not just big, but like massive. And then I know a lot of you guys are going to be sitting on a computer like, it's not that big. You know, the MK23 is twice as big as that. Yeah, well, true, but that gun is ginormous. This is massive. Even though, granted, technically it's the same size as the USP, there's something about the added features like the raised sights and the extended threaded barrel, which make this gun seem a lot bigger than it really is. And let's be very clear, the gun is big. It's huge. And there's a fun factor to it, But then when you start talking about the practicality, which I'm pretty certain this gun is not built and wasn't designed to be practical, but from an everyday civilian standpoint, it is not that practical in terms of size. It makes a great home defense gun, I'll tell you that much. But then even then, it's a 12-round capacity. And I don't want to get into capacity now. I'm going to make another video talking about my thoughts on capacity. But granted, yeah, 12 rounds is enough, I guess. But I still think the gun is just a little big. And especially considering it's supposed to be the smaller variant of the MK23. The gun is big. But it's not so big that it's an encumbrance. But it's a big gun. So if you're not into the big guns, you're definitely not going to like this USP Tactical. Now, I've been kind of going in really hard on the Tactical, and it may even sound like I don't like it. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In all respects, I'm kind of giving it a hard time because I know what this gun is designed for, what it's meant for, and what it's supposed to do. And in the end, it's an exceptional firearm. You can't beat the quality. The quality is unmatched. I really just can't think of anything else. I think I'd liken it comparable to a top-notch 1911, but only in the polymer version. Now, I really did want this gun a lot. And I did want it because I got it. At the same time, it's a little, for me, a little much. And I don't really know how to quantify that or explain what I mean by that. But it is a tactical gun, so I guess that is its purpose. So, in that regard, I really do love the USP Tactical, even though it's kind of bordering on the line of being too much for me. I really do like it. I do think the gun is worth every penny. Okay, I'm lying. This gun is expensive as hell. But, I mean, some people are willing to pay it, and if they're willing to pay it, there you go. And I guess price is relative. But in my mind, this gun was expensive. I'm not even going to lie to you. But apparently I bought it, so I guess I subscribe to the same thing. In the end, it's a great gun. There aren't that many out there. There used to be, but they're not as easy to find as they once were before. And also, my gun came with the case, which is actually going for like $200 online now, which is crazy by itself. So there's a lot of presentation to this gun, and it's really cool. That's a really nice factor to it. So at the end of the day, that's the H&K USP Tactical 45, and I'm out.